Thank you. This is a special opportunity once again to be able to discuss matters food system. This is a subject that is close to all of us because we are linked to food production in one way or another, and it impacts our daily livelihoods. So I just want to open the meeting with a special opportunity for introductions. And before that, I'd request if we can get a word of prayer from at least one of us. Let me see who can say a word of prayer. I'm still not sure who can unmute and who cannot. So let me just say that word of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to meet this afternoon and discuss a special topic on food systems. We pray that you guide this discussion and you enrich us with knowledge and also be able to implement these in our day-to-day livelihoods. We pray this in Jesus' name, our Lord. Amen. So therefore, my name is Patrick Okinda, or you can call me Rick Okinda. I'll be the moderator of this session. Food and agriculture is a close subject to me, and I'm happy to be with this meeting, to be together with us, to moderate and also to learn as we go about this topic. I will give an opportunity to our panelists of the day, that is Mr. George Vuyala from ADS Western and Mr. John Ashitiva, also from ADS Western, to do a brief introduction of themselves. But before that, this webinar has been put together in a collaboration between various organizations. Among them is ADS Western. Another one is WHH, which is a World Hunger High Life. And then we also have KENAF. KENAF stands for Kenya. Kenya, let me get that right. Someone will help me on that. KENAF. And we also have our friends from ADS Western who are our hosting partners. I will give George an opportunity to introduce himself. And also we can also give John Ashitiva an opportunity. So George, if you can hear me, please go ahead. Just give us a brief introduction of yourself. And we will also be able to see from the rest of the audience who else will be able to contribute. Simi will guide us on whether the mics are on for the rest of the participants. George Karibu, just tell us who you are and what you do with ADS and also with the food production ecosystem.
Thank you, Rick, and good afternoon, team. My name's George Vuyala. I work for AD Anglican Development Services Western Region as a project officer under the project Sustainable Food Systems Project. My background is in sustainable agriculture and community development, and we are happy to be joined in this webinar so that we can share and learn and relearn. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Allow me to also introduce John Ashitiva. John, please introduce yourself to us and help us understand what you do and where you work.
Patrick, I'm John Ashitiva. I do work with ADS, Anglican Development Services, Western Region. I am a food system expert. Specifically in ADS, I am a programs coordinator. And in this discussion, specifically discussing the work that you've done under the sustainable food system. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I had mentioned our partners. I was looking for the accurate meaning of KENAF, that is Kenya National Farmers Federation. And we will be able to continue this conversation as we acknowledge the various contributions that each of these organizations are bringing on the table. As we have heard from our speakers, we have experts. As John has mentioned, he's a seasoned food systems expert, and he has been in the industry for over 7 years, practicing with ADS Western, and also focusing on designing and implementing impactful projects that promote food security, environmental sustainability, and community resilience. We want resilient communities, especially on matters climate, food production, and being able to implement innovation and working with various organizations collaboratively to be able to be of impact to our societies. And as George has also mentioned, he's also a project officer with ADS Western and is dedicated to be able to focus on specialized projects within the food ecosystem, food systems, and also climate smart agriculture and regenerative farming. And he has a strong background in community-based agricultural development and is committed to advancing resilient and adaptive food production. And he shall be here with us to share with us his experiences, his knowledge around this topic. I know this can sound like a complex topic when we put it in English, but I just want to welcome probably John Vuyala to break down what does food system approach means. What are food systems and what are we talking about in this webinar so that we make the topic simpler for all of us. George, karibu.
Thank you, Rick. And without further ado, let's delve in and see what a food system is. Basically, I can mention that in plain, maybe we start from in plain language, that a food systems approach is just looks as everything that touches food. Each and every aspect that touches food, from production, processing, storage, transport, retail consumption, and waste, plus the people, all the other interacting factors, the people who are involved, the policies, the economy surrounding the food systems, and the environment that shapes those stages. So the core idea here is solving problems by addressing interactions and feedbacks across the whole system rather than isolated parts. Just for example, just dealing with yields or fixing or storage alone or fixing markets or diets or the policy. But now this approach gives us a holistic image on which all these interacting factors, from when food is produced to when the food reaches the stomach. So what matters most is the multiple goals simultaneously to achieve food security, nutrition, farmer livelihoods, climate resilience, environmentally sustainable environment, and then the equitability in that process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. You have spoken about source to destination. That is from the farm all the way to the table. That is the journey of food in our environments. You have also spoken about sustainability, making sure that you can always repeat the cycle without getting challenges of depletion or scarcity. And you've also talked about equity, that is getting everybody involved in the process. And I just want to encourage our audience, wherever you are listening, you are tuning in from, as we will open up the opportunity for Q's and A's at some point. But in the meantime, I just want you to use the chat. If you can see the chat button near you, use it to tell us what form of food production are you most familiar with. And I will give you the options. You can tell us maybe where you are joining from, because I also understand our geographical addresses inform the options that we have in terms of food systems and what we get engaged in terms of production and also our consumption habits. So are you involved in traditional agriculture? Are you a livestock keeper? Are you into agroforestry? Are you into aquatic culture? So people from the lakeside might talk about aquatic culture, but we know also in the modern days, you can do aquatic culture, fish farming, anywhere where there can be a water body, a pond. So I want us to just use the chat button to say who we are, where are we joining from, and what are we most familiar with? Are we keeping cattle? Are we keeping poultry? Are we keeping fish? Where do we buy our food? From the supermarket, from the local market, from the roadside? How do you get food to your table, and how do you participate in food production? You can pick one of those areas and just respond. We want to sample your feedback. So let's get going, and I will also engage our panelists to help us break down the discussion. And I just want us to continue understanding the topic of the day of the decoding food system and the approaches. And as George has mentioned about from source to the table, I want us to further discuss how the various food systems and food methods and production methods are affecting our society. And I want us to look at the area of environment, that is especially the soil health, the health of the soil that we use to produce food, the water that we use to produce food, the biodiversity in between, and the greenhouse gas emission that comes out in the process of food production. And I would want John Ashitiva to help us understand the various considerations around food production and food consumption in this regard, that is the soil health and the water usage and biodiversity and the greenhouse gas emission, and how this impacts the farmer, how it impacts us as consumers of food. John Ashitiva, please take it away. John, your mic is still not active.
Okay, sorry for that. Thank you so much,
Thank
Rick.
you.
You're saying that, as you rightly mentioned, as we talk of food system versus the value chain, the food system it involves all the other crops and livestock. So we have some challenges that actually affect the food system. So it's for us to see how do we unpack these challenges and also come up with the best food system in place. So the soil health is one of it. The kind of inputs that farmers use might adversely affect the soil health. So it is important for us as producers, as farmers, as input suppliers, to be able to know the soil, the soil status of the soil status, so that we know specifically which crops we need to plant. So it's just to give out that the first thing is to do the soil testing from various companies. So the soil testing now, it gives you a leeway on other options of what you need to adopt specifically, be it use of compost, manure, be it use of liming and others. So after getting now the good soil health, you also need to have water being one of the key sources or rather important element for crop, for germination, for growth and all that. So specifically, the most of our farmers, or most of the people actors within the value chain, actually rely on the rain-fed water sources, the rain-fed water. So we are saying that in food system, we are talking the issue of sustainability. How can we move now from the rain-fed uh, cropping now to continuous sustainable production? This is now where we think of technologies, various technologies like installing of the water pans to have enough water to use for irrigation, the issue of the solar pumps that are cost effective for us to do the irrigation, then also the issue of the greenhouse and others. Then the issue of the biodiversity for food system, as we said, it includes all the crops, all the livestock that we rear at home. So when we talk of food system, it's a wholesome approach. So we really encourage us to have the biodiversity within it. So with that, now it works better on the issue of the health, the issue of the nutrition. So then at the end of it, you get that both the livestock or the crops, they actually correlate with each other, where the livestock will be able to produce the manure and then the crops use. Then after that, you get your good crop. Still the same crop is fed to livestock. So we are talking of food system. We're also talking of you're also talking of what we call recycling, what we call reusing. At the end of it, we are reducing the greenhouse emission. So under food system production, we actually promote various technologies like this of the biogas. The biogas actually reduces the greenhouse emissions at the end of it, reducing the issue of the global warming, and then composting and other various technologies. So as we work the issue of the food system, as you said from the beginning, that it encompasses everything at all for us to enhance the sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That is actually an expert speaking. And I know you have covered quite a lot in just a few minutes, being a precise speaker like you are. And just to be able to understand further some of the things that you have highlighted, especially on the area of sustainability. You've spoken about our traditional methods of relying on rain-fed water on our production systems, and why that might be risky, especially if the rains are not predictable or if the waters are not sufficient, so we can be able to adapt other methods. Maybe you can just highlight further how farmers can go about this, especially the small farmer who doesn't have the muscles to implement those mega irrigation projects within their local farms back home, so that we're able to achieve sustainability even at a small scale. So help us understand the issue of irrigation as a small farmer. How they suggest to us maybe what can be done at a small scale in terms of crop production. George, you can feel free to support John. I know you're able to help each other on that. John and Shitivites, the mic is with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Just for more clarification, I think that 80% of farmers in Kenya rely on rain-fed agriculture, and it's really affecting the food system. So how do we now move to constant sustainable food production? Now the element of water storage comes in. We have various ways that we can store our water. First one, we have the normal tanks that we purchase, the plastic tanks, both for home use and also for crop irrigation. And then we have a technology called use of water pumps. Specifically, you make a hole and then you put in a dump liner. With that, you collect sufficient water during rain season. So when you have the water in the water pan, then it's easy. You need to have a very expensive pump, or rather, you have maybe irrigation system. But when you have the water, you can use manually. You just fetch water in your small garden, in your small farm, and then you irrigate your crops. So we are actually in food system. We are trying to advance various innovations, various technologies, and you have seen that actually people are adopting these technologies and they are able to produce throughout the year using the rain harvested water. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think you have addressed that question very well. The excavation of water pans and putting the liner there, and where we are not able to afford those expensive pumps, at a small scale, you can start with manual lifting of water and distribution of that water in our farms. Now, I come from a home where we keep both, we are keepers of livestock, especially poultry, and at the same time, we maintain a small kitchen garden and a fairly medium-sized farm. And when we're growing up, there was that strict instruction from the parents that whenever we are cleaning the space occupied by the livestock, that waste was not supposed to be dumped just anyway. It will be incorporated in our farms so that we're able to achieve organic manure. I would want you to also expound a bit more on the subject of biodiversity, given that it is one of the ways to achieve sustainability and to create a good relationship between our crops and our livestock. And at this one, I'll allow George to guide us on biodiversity. Vuyala, how do we make sure that we continuously sustain a good balance between our crops and our livestock and maximize on the relationship between the two so that we sustain our biodiversity? And what advantages do we sometimes miss out by separating the two rather than intertwining the two?
Yes, just I can go on before Biella has some technical link. Just to say that you're looking at the issue of biodiversity. How do you make our farms clean? How do you use whatever it's within our farms? So one of the greatest things that we do is to reduce the cost of production, is actually to reduce the cost of inputs. So we are actually advancing the issue of composting. where we use the locally available material, the kitchen garden, the kitchen garden waste, the kitchen waste, and also the cow dung, bit rabbit waste, and all that. So we actually advancing to have a clean environment by composting the locally available material, of which it will now be used to in our crops. As I said earlier, most of the soils in Kenya are acidic, so it's a way of now reducing the acidity in our farms, and with that we spur the productivity of that farm. Then also still we have other ways apart from just doing the normal composting. We also advance what you call black soldier flies. Black soldier flies are some the type of a fly that actually converts the waste one into thrust that can be used in the farms. And then still you have the larva that is fed now to fish, to poultry, and also to mostly fish and poultry. So this is what we advanced to call actually circular economy, or rather the circular economy. Still, the other thing that we are advancing is what you call vermicomposting. Vermicomposting, it's a type of earthworm that actually converts still the raw material one into vermijuice. The vermijuice can be used in farms as a pesticide, as a foliar fertilizer, and also the compost itself also is used in the farm. So we are trying to reduce the cost of production by reducing the money put in our system, that the inputs, and then from there, at least the farmer will be able to use less, produce more. And then in addition, in diversity also we are saying, can we now move and do what we call seed banking, seed multiplication, so that these producers can be able to get their own seeds that they're well trained on how to, especially for for the local vegetable seeds, so that next time they don't go back to purchase, but rather use whatever they have. So this just to be able to actually reduce the cost that farmers are using. And in a value chain approach, or rather than a food system approach, the the key start points at production level. When the production is high, when the production is stable, at the end of it, it will lead towards production, towards distribution, consumption, and value addition. And that's why we really focus at production level to make sure that the food system is working effectively. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. You say that you things don't go wrong, things start wrong, and therefore you must get production right so that the rest of the ecosystem works very well. You've spoken about the circular economy, whereby we are using what we have and reusing what we produce. You've also spoken about the opportunities that we have in just understanding our soils, the acidity level, and how we can work with composite manure to reduce the acidity, and also incorporating the various components of our soils to just be able to maximize on taking good care of our farms, while at the same time producing a lot. So I do not want to continue staying there further because we have had quite a good conversation. Maybe we can sample feedback that we're already receiving just to see what our audience are saying. I can see a hand is up. I don't know where it has gone. There is Refi Baraza from where he has not said where he's joining from, but he's the founder of Jikuku Farm and is a consultant. And they say that they talk the language of chicken. That is interesting. And then we also have Albina in Bungoma. She's involved in traditional farming. So maybe she relates a lot with what we are talking about as a small scale farmer and how to implement aspects of circular economy and using composite manure in our farms, and also being able to implement irrigation at a small scale. And then we have Samuel Akolo, who is asking about inclusive and digital marketplace. And this one, I think, will also be addressed in the next set of questions. I'll be sampling more feedback as you continue sharing on the chat box. So keep typing. I would want to direct this question to Mr. Vuyala now, and that is about the impact that what we do as farmers, as consumers, has on our society. So in terms of challenges and opportunities, so what are the greatest challenges that we face as local producers of food, whether we are keeping livestock or producing crops? And what are these impacts in terms of climate change? What are these impacts in terms of access to markets? How do we get our food delivered in the local markets? And also, how do we talk about resource scarcity and navigating around the scarcity of resources? It could be finances, it could be human capital, or it could be inputs and equipment around the whole concept of production. So, Mr. Vuyala, kindly help us understand how, as farmers, we can be able to balance between these challenges and still be able to deliver for our consumers.
Thank you so much. Apologies for the previous, I had a technical itch, but all in all, I can address a few challenges and then my colleague can come in to support. Few challenges we are facing towards the feasibility of this, we are looking at mostly low productivity. Maybe this can be necessitated due to the small land sizes, low technology adoption, and poor soil health. But also, as we look at that, we can say as a project, these low yields and soil degradation already, my colleague has talked about, but we are trying to sustain it through continuous training on agroecological practices, making sure the farmers do soil testing to know their soil health, and also use the climate smart farming technologies. We're also looking at a challenge where there is high post-harvest losses. This is just basically from the lack of storage and processing facilities available to the farmer, to the small-scale farmer down on the ground. But also, we, as a project, we have really sustained this by training on food safety, training on food preservation, and food storage training. We have enhanced, and we have also supported to know the accessibility of market infrastructures for storage. That is the aggregation centers, promoted chillers for the dairy cooperatives and so on. We have limited access to markets and there is also fewer or weak farm organizations where these market inefficiencies, we have done market linkages, and also the issue of aggregation centers and business trainings have come in very much in handy to support the aspect of limited market access. And also the climate aspect, the climate change and resource degradation affecting water and soil systems. We are saying that there is also the issue of low nutrition and consumer awareness, where the project has also enhanced through nutrition and hygiene education, farmers learning how to cook and so that they know how to retain the right nutritional requirements for each and every food that comes from the farm. And also the issue of school gardens have also been so promotional in a way that the child grows up learning how to be aware of the aspect of nutritional gardening and the nutrition required for this. And also there is also the issue of weak governance, because sometimes the governance structure is also an issue. But we have advocated in collaboration with Kenya for multi-stakeholder dialogues and advocacy on the right holders for the rights to food and so on. So in each and everything, the impacts of this, we can look at the impacts of climate change on probably market access. We look at infrastructure damages, where floods wash away roads, bridges, storage facilities. We also look at heavy rains that make rural roads impassable. That means the perishable nature of our foods then remain at the production, the farm level there, they don't reach the consumer, and then hence wastage. We are also looking at the price fluctuations as we look at these challenges where we are looking climate shocks that cause sudden surges in staple food prices. And then there's also the aspect of overproduction where in good years, which leads to price crashes. So which affects really farmers because of this unpredictable nature of income, and also the consumers facing rising food costs during maybe droughts and maybe floods. All in all, in a nutshell, we are saying that these impacts uh, have, because when you look at the impact of climate change on, for example, resource capital, because now the resource capital is very much equivalent to natural resource, the human resource, the financial, the physical, and the social resources that farmers rely on each and every time. So as we look at this, when they are challenged, it means the resource capital is challenged in a nutshell. So maybe I invite John to give in a little bit of it to sum up.
Thank you, Vuyala. John, you want to weigh in also on the challenges and solutions? Okay. In the interest of time, as John prepares, allow me to just encourage us also to participate again on the chat. I want you to type one of your favorite quotes about farming or agriculture or food production or nutrition in the chat box, and we shall be highlighting the best. So just go to the chat box and highlight one or two. For me, one of the quotes that really inspires me around the issue of food production and farming is by someone called Wendell Berry. He says, a good farmer is a craftsman of the highest order, a kind of artist. A good farmer is a craftsman of the highest order and is a kind of an artist. So if we think that farmers are not artists, then think about the whole process from preparation of the farm to making sure that the food is produced and is actually available for consumption. It is a work of great art, and it requires craftsmanship of the highest order. We have just been speaking about challenges around farming, and with the challenges around farming, if there's one thing we must appreciate about farming and farmers, is that a farmer has to be an optimist, or he will not still be a farmer. A farmer has to be an optimist, or he will still not be a farmer. And this applies also to the women, that farmers must be optimists, and we have spoken about that. Now, looking at how farmers navigate the various challenges and looking at what it takes to define a career as a profession, then we ask in this maybe conversation, is farming a profession or is just any other trade? And I think, according to Brian Betts, who is also one of the people who inspire me around farming, is that farming is a profession of great hope. If there is an important component of professionalism that is needed around farming, then it is hope. And we have seen that in how the promise of production can be valid when we take into account the issues that have been addressed by Mr. Vuyala on farming, especially around land sizes, climate issues, financing, accessing the market, governance, and sorting the mess that could disrupt farming. And therefore, I welcome your quotes. I'll be happy to sample what you know about farming around quotes. It could be someone you're quoting, or it could be your own quote, so that we keep ourselves inspired and we keep our farmers inspired as we continue to advance this great profession. I don't know if John Ashitiva has something to add around the whole concept of production. Would want to move into something else that is processing, but I'll give John an opportunity to just weigh in. Perhaps you can also add your thoughts around the issues to do with the socioeconomic factors like inputs and access to credit, how they affect production. Do our farmers really have access to credit? How far are we? Where did we start from? And what do we still need to do to make sure that our farmers actually have access to credit? As someone who has gone to School of Business, I understand that access to credit is the game changer anywhere in any industry. Do our farmers have access to credit? And also, I would want Mr. Shitiva, as you also weigh in, to talk about any initiatives that are being undertaken by your SUSTFARM project around organic farming and crop rotation and permaculture, and also to be able to see how all these things are intertwined with ecological health and improving the yield of farmers. So take it away, Mr. Shitiva, and after your contribution, we shall be able to proceed to the next topic.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much, Rich. Thanks so much, George, for elaborating. Yes, it's true. We have all the challenges that George has highlighted, but as a program, as a project and organization, we've been able to come up with some solutions, as has been highlighted. So, especially the issue of the inputs being, they said, at production is where everything, where the road meets the where the meets the road, and we're saying that at production, the issue of input actually totals to around 30%. So what we are doing is specifically to bring the groups together for them to easily access the inputs where they say umoja ni nguvu. So they do collective purchase of the inputs. With that, they'll be saving the cost of transportation. Others will be saving the time that they might have were wasted. So we are advancing collective purchase through various groups and also the cooperatives. And then also what we are doing is to advance what called cheaper ways of coming up with inputs, especially the organic fertilizers, training them, practically training on how to make organic fertilizer, how to make the issue of the slurry, especially where we are promoting the biogas. Then farmers are getting slurry from the biogas, they're decomposing, using on the farms. The issue of the vermiculture, as I just mentioned earlier, the issue of the black soldier flies. So with this, yeah, basically trying to reduce the cost. And also for the every farmer, we are advancing for kitchen gardening, because these vegetables are fed every day in our household. So found that most of the money goes to purchase of vegetables, purchase of everything, the greens, the tomatoes, and all that. So we saw that if we now we have to reduce the cost that the farmers use at household is to promote heavily at kitchen garden at home, at household level, and also at schools, where we're also promoting the 4K clubs and also the young farmers clubs to be able to support the school feeding program. So the end of it, when the farms are good, the soils are okay, after doing the soil testing and all that, doing the specific recommendations, of course, the production will increase. Then for us also, one way that we are really promoting the issue of crop rotation, and also just an element under the conservation of agriculture, where we are saying that can farmers reduce the cost of weeding? Can they practice conservation agriculture? Can they practice minimum tillage? Can they practice crop rotation? So with crop rotation, it will reduce even the effect of pests on the crops, which of the diseases that will attack the crops. Also with this, the farmer is again reducing the cost that is putting on production at production level. So after now it has been produced, what happens is that there's a lot of around 12 to 20% of what we produce is lost through post-harvest handling processes. So as an organization of the project, we now train them on the pre and post-harvest handling technologies, the use of the hematic bags, the use of the metallic silos, but we are not advancing the use of the chemicals. So what we are promoting is the hematic bags that have two polythene or one polythene, but with this you don't use any other preservative. So with that again, the farmer is saving the cost that he or she will have purchased the preservative, and then also the issue of the health, because no preservative is being used. So whatever is being consumed is it's free from chemicals. So with that, we also advance, because I've said that food system, it encompasses everything, be it nutrition, health, environment. So after reducing now the issue of post-harvest, pre and post-harvest handling or losses, and then we move to the next level on storage. How do they now store? They have the produce. How do they store? The best way, how they need to. And what is now left is now sold through cooperatives, through aggregation centers. So we also strengthen the cooperatives and also strengthen the aggregation centers, so that these farmers, wherever, be it at local level or be it at the urban centers, they are now able to access. So through this, we have been able to do quite a lot. Specifically, advancing the issue of technologies. Which technologies do we promote at to deal with the issue of climate and environmental stresses, and then the issue of food production and post-harvest handling, the issue of the economic and market. Yes, our farmers, sometimes the issue of access to credit is a big, it's a big thing. So what we are doing is, if they work together, it becomes very easily to reach out to meet a financial institution. But for us, what we are advancing is the issue of the VSLA, Village Saving and Loaning Associations, where they are trained on how they can create money within their groups, how they can keep records, how they can diversify into various agricultural ventures or enterprises, how they can now move into value addition. Because whatever you sell when raw, it means that it will not fetch as much as when it's value added. So you're also moving from production now moving from selling raw towards a value addition. So with this, more money is fetched. At the end of it, more farmers are reached. And then at the end of it, we get impact where now these beneficiaries are able now to invest in other enterprises.
Wow, that is like a masterclass. Thank you so much. We appreciate the wealth of knowledge that you have shared with us. And just to highlight quite a few, managing of post-harvest handling, and also village saving and lending organizations to help us access finances even within our local communities, and also being able to just be aware of the various opportunities that ADS is providing together with the partners to propel food production forward and to create sustainability in between. I believe there are many questions that might be coming up, because you are sharing quite a lot in a short span of time. So probably you can also share the contacts, your contacts maybe for further inquiries. Simiyu, if you can help with that, so that we can have special, as farmers who need special help, maybe from you people, they can be able to access. So if you can share your contact, at least a central place for feedback, it can really be helpful. Allow me to sample some of the quotes that we have so far from us. We have a quote from Gideon Liomu. He says, agriculture is always going to be a top priority. Everybody is going to always need food. Everybody is going to always need to eat, and everybody is always going to need some help with that. So as long as you're willing to put in the hours, there's a job there for you. That is a quote by Brady Blasher on farming. And George Vuyala himself, he says, food security begins with the farmer, but it succeeds with the system. Very good. And then Rofi Baraza, he says, to be a farmer is to be a student forever, for each day brings something new. That is a quote by John Connell. And we have Kuloba Miriam, wants us to be able to project the presentations. Kuloba, there are contacts there from ADS Western. You can get in touch. Maybe more material can be shared with you. Then Ann Taula says, Ann Taula is joining from Kakamega, and she says, according to Elliot Colem, the only truly dependable production technologies are those that are sustainable over the long term. By that very definition, they must avoid erosion, pollution, environmental degradation, and resource waste very, very well. I can see we are not just farmers, we are also learned farmers. We look out for information in the trade that we do, and that is very encouraging. So allow us to speak a little bit about processing of foods. And I just want to give our panelists an opportunity, I don't know who will take this, to explain to us what is food processing and what are the levels, that is the primary level, the secondary level, and the tertiary level, and also the technological innovations that can be implemented in making sure that we are processing our food in the best way possible. I'll give each of the panelists a minute to weigh in on this so that we can move a bit fast. So I think Vuyala, you can begin, and then Ashitiva, you can close. Food processing, the levels in terms of primary, tertiary, secondary, and the innovations in between that can make these a friendly process to the environment. Dear panelists.
Thank you, Rick. In a nutshell, I would just make you understand about food processing, and predominantly food processing. We have primary and secondary processing, and we also look at food processing as a transformation of raw agricultural products into forms, probably the forms that are stable, maybe nutritious, that are market ready. That's also I was forgetting the aspect of safe and also convenient. So in the aspect of our food systems framework, processing is not an isolated stage. You know that it influences and it is influenced by the other components or stages of production, that is storage, distribution, the market, the consumption, the nutrition aspect, the waste management, and environmental sustainability. Because as you process, then you have to put in mind how it is going to be stored, how it is going to be distributed, the kind of market do you want to attack, and then how will you conserve the nutrition availability in that food, and then how is it sustaining or sustaining the environment. So basically, just in a quick pick, let me just say the role, basically the role of food processing in a food system is just extending the shelf life. We look at how do we extend this shelf life is through the processes like drying, where we have supported groups with the solar dryers to support the same. We also have the issue of canning, pasteurization, milling, then you have fermentation, packaging, and also smoking, which all these have impacts in reducing post-harvest losses. It also stabilizes the supply. This stabilizes the supplies across the seasons and also food availability. Then in processing, we're also enhancing food safety, where processing kills pathogens and contaminants through heat treatment and filtration. We're also talking about adding value to the food so that it can attract the market value, that is the market prices, for higher incomes for farmers, and also improving the nutrition and so on. So how food we can strengthen these each and every by enhancing resilience of processed food and preserved foods to act as buffer stocks and shock absorbers during droughts and so on. We are also looking at the aspect of what are the challenges that are involved and the weaknesses in food processing, where there is high costs involved. Fuel, there is the issue of electricity. For example, those who work in the dairy industry are looking at the cooling energy. We also looking for the inadequacy in technology, where either the small-scale processors often use low-efficient equipment or manual or semi-automated, or all in all, there is poor hygiene in those processing zones, and that necessitates then there's food safety risks like contamination, which declines the market access. I quickly maybe I look at the levels of processing, and that I think I'll hand over to John to look up into it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, John. You can take it up. Meanwhile,
Yeah,
there is a contact there that has been provided for those of you who may have questions. Just save it, save the number for any further queries with the ADS team. John, please proceed with the levels of processing.
Thank you so much. I'll just proceed where George left. We have three levels for processing. The first one is the primary food processing. This is where all of us do every day. This is the thing that we do every day. There's just the milling of the maize flour, wheat flour, washing, the peeling, chopping, drying, freezing. This is now at the primary level, where we're doing the smoking, freezing, and also the job of pasteurizing the milk. So this is common in every household. And then you have the secondary food processing. This is where it's more advanced, that is to ready to eat rather than or nearly ready to eat. And specifically it involves cooking, which is now an advanced way as from the primary one. Because the first one just washed, but now when you are cooking, you are fermenting, you are preserving the preservation, you are adding flavor to change the texture, and then also to increase the shelf life. So most of us are there at the primary and the secondary food processing. But also now we have the advanced one, the third one is called the tertiary food processing, which involves the large scale commercial production of the finished products, that involves the issue of the packaging, the issue of the distribution, labeling, the issue of using the vacuum sealing. So we are seeing that the tertiary level actually, as an individual, it's not very easy. But when you come together as a cooperative, when you come together as a group, now it's easier to move to the tertiary level of food processing. And in food system, as you said, actually from production, you do the processing and all that. So we are trying to support, as I said, the cooperatives now moving from actually the specific sale of raw milk now to pasteurization and doing value addition. And one of the key challenges that this cooperative are facing is the issue of the spoilage of milk. Rightfully says, when you move to tertiary, we have to bring the issue of the technology. So rather than depending on electricity, which are the alternative are we supporting? We're supporting what we call the water ice chiller, which is very effective. It can cool the milk up to -5. It's not very possible with the other gadgets. And then it is energy saving. It is actually cost effective. The issue of the hygiene and also maintenance. So we are looking at as an organization, as a project, not just to look at production alone, but how can we support the issue of processing? And as you said, it also depends, it is demand driven. So we don't introduce a technology. What we do is we support the vision of various groups, the vision of various cooperatives. So that's what I can mention on the issue of processing. And as we know, when you add value, automatically the price of the produce of the product actually increases. So that's why we're saying now let us try and move apart from doing the production, can we now do more of this product, the processing, so that we can earn more? Yeah, yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our panelists. Now we are headed to another subtopic, that is distribution. But before that, I just want to know what we do at home as regards food processing and food distribution, especially in the area of storage and distribution. We have had quite a lot on matters transformation of raw agricultural products into food. That is right from storage, distribution, nutrition conservation, and also the impact that it has in our environment. And I just want you to type one word for many, one word for many. Probably it is how you store your food, or how you get your food from the market to your home, or how you get your food from your farm to the market to sell. Whether you are buying food or selling food, how do you move it? So I would want your answer to be in the following ways. These are chance again to go back to the chat box. You can write motorcycle. That is probably how the most part of your food gets home, or it gets from your farm to the markets. You can write motorcycle, or a two-wheeler, write two-wheeler or four-wheeler, two-wheeler or four-wheeler. And then how we conserve our food, how we preserve our food. You can write natural, that is sun, using the sun and other natural means like smoking. Or you can write use of electricity. I hope I've been understood. So we're basically trying to understand how our food gets moving, and also how our food gets stored. Two-wheeler or four-wheeler, choose one. And also electricity or natural means, choose one, as we proceed with the conversation. So I just want again our conversation to help us understand how food reaches the consumer from the farms through storage and transport and retail, and also what are the bottlenecks and inefficiencies in the distribution chain that lead to food being lost in the process of moving or storing? And also, what are the challenges that we are solving as SUSTFARM and projects such that we're able to sort out this mess? And what can we put in place as a project? That is the SUSTFARM project. I have seen it has been projected. And also, how do we do the pricing and market dynamics that influence our customer access to healthy and nutritional foods? So I'd want again our panelists to share this opportunity to just understand the challenges, understanding transportation and movement of food transportation, and the bottlenecks, and also the dynamics that influence our consumer access to healthy and nutritious food. We have heard about conservation of nutrition, of nutrients in the food, and also the solutions that we have through the SUSTFARM project. So welcome our panelists. We'll begin with Vuyala and then Ashitiva.
Thank you, Rick. And let me go straight to the aspect of distribution. Maybe what I can just say briefly is that food distribution, as the name suggests, just refers to how food moves from the farm to the consumers. In essence, it moves to the aspect of transportation, the aggregation aspects, the marketing aspects, the wholesale system, the retail system, and the last mile delivery until it reaches the table for consumption. And this now gets us to a point where we need to know. You asked about the food distribution. There's an aspect. Number one, we can look at how is it distributed, the channels. That is one, from farm gate to the local market, where farmers sell directly to the traders or at village markets. This is very important because it enhances quick movement of perishable products, and there is also minimum cost required for processing because now the food is sold directly to the local market. Then there is also the other aspect of from the farm gate now to the aggregators, to the wholesalers, then to the retailers, which you see the common staples like fruits and vegetables go through such channels. Traders collect the produce, and then they transport to urban centers, and then they act as wholesalers where they sell to the retailers. Then the retailers now sell to consumers. We have also the contract form or the formal supply chains, contract farming, where a supermarket or a processor or a hotel or big institutions can initiate a contract with a farmer where they have a contract to supply, for example, vegetables, indigenous vegetables, or to supply fruits for a certain period of time constantly and consistently. So this requires consistent quality, consistent packaging quality, and also the aspect of traceability is very key here. Then we also have the aspect of cooperative or group marketing. And when we look at these, we are looking at farmers forming groups to negotiate better prices. Of course, that's the main aspect of cooperative movement. So negotiation of better prices, and they have also stronger bargaining power. And there is also the aspect of, I think, reduced transport costs. Then the digital and online marketing, where there is this advertisement and marketing of products on the online platform, social media. So these e-commerce platforms for maybe fruits, vegetables, grains, or processed foods improves transparency and reduces also the cost of middleman exploitation. So in this, all in all, as a food distribution channel, it ensures a few, I can just state a few functions, or the one we have ensures food availability across all regions, and then the price stabilization. We also have improved market access to farmers, where when you do this, reliable transport and road networks helps the farmers just reach high value markets, urban consumers, and export channels. This is very key. Then there is also the support of economic development, where distribution creates jobs in transport, in wholesale markets, storage facilities, and in retail sectors. So in all, there are challenges also in this aspect of food distribution. The poor road infrastructure, where there is now the policy aspect, where we have advocacy for building roads and infrastructures that link to food distribution. And then we have the lack of cold chain transport, which, as much as we are looking at this, actually they are costly, but there is appropriate technologies or improved technologies that we are working on. We have provided ice water chillers, we have provided motorbike transportation, but all these will be, my colleague John will deal with them later on. Then we are looking at high fuel costs, multiple middlemen, reducing farmer profit. There is also limited market information, of course, and then the seasonal gluts and shortages goes to unplanned production processes. And then we have also urban-rural distribution gaps that are also affecting this distribution. Thank you. Let me invite John.
Because of time, I'll take from there just to mention what you're doing as the SUSTFARM project. One is to deal with some of the challenges that is faced during the food distribution. We are strengthening and also supporting the infrastructural in cooperatives, where we are supporting the motorbikes, the water ice chillers, to actually enable the milk to reach the processing or the cooperative on time when it's of good quality. We're also supporting the traders in various markets that come up with the market stalls to keep their produce on a safe place. Also supporting the testing equipment, because when you have been able now to deliver from the farm to the regulation center, and it is not of the required quality. So we are promoting or supporting dispatches and also dispatches for the testing equipment, be it the alcohol guns, the hydrometers, the moisture meters, so that we meet grains collected from farmers. Are they at the right moisture content? Be it milk, is it of the right quality? So that's what we are doing. And also the question that you asked was on pricing, what affects the pricing? Once the accessibility, the availability and affordability. You can say that you have food, but is it available? Is it accessible? And can you afford it? And the other issue is the seasons. You have seasons where we have more produce, the other time we have or less produce. So how do we, as in the food system, how do we manage? How do we work on that? Now the issue of the technologies come in, and then so the purchasing power, the purchasing of power of various consumers can have the food, but now their purchasing power is low. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for that. Allow me to just give a shout out to those of us who have responded to how we get our food moving and also how we get it preserved. Most of us are talking about natural ways of preserving, that is the use of sunshine. Seems like some of us are forgetting that use of a refrigerator is actually not natural, it's electricity. But we are also seeing that we move our food quite a bit on two-wheelers, and a few of us move our food on four-wheelers. Thank you so much for that. I will give us another question that is relevant to what we are just discussing. So capture the question. I hope someone, Simio, if you can help me to type it. So think about what you ate in the previous 1 week. What was the main influence of what you ate? What was the major consideration of what you have eaten in the previous 1 week? The first option. So just right there, the question is factors influencing our food choices. And I want us to use the most recent food choices, that is the past 1 week. Is it the nutritional value that we will obtain in the food that we chose? So choice A is nutritional value. You can just answer nutritional value. Or is it your budget stroke affordability? Is that the main consideration? Then availability. How available is the food that you want to eat, or accessible? How available or accessible is the food you want to eat? Then social cultural influence. Is it because you are influenced by your friends? We see many Gen Zs influencing each other to go for ice cream dates and things like that. And we also see the traditional setup where food is also intertwined with cultural belief around food and when to eat, how to eat it. And then the last choice is age. Are your food choices affected by your age? So just type there, food choices, that's the question. Option A, natural nutritional value. Option B, budget and affordability. Option C, availability and accessibility. Option D, social cultural influence, society and culture. And then option E is age. Let us see why we ate what we ate in the previous 1 week. And as we continue to look at that, allow me to engage our panelists again to help us understand how these food choices that we are sharing in the chat box have an impact in our lives, and what interventions can we do to address challenges on areas, say, like accessibility and availability and nutritional value, and how things like labeling can affect our choices of nutrition, food labeling, and consumer education, how consumer education can influence our belief and our choices around food, and our behavior, how our behavior is important, how we can nurture good behavior around food, and how we can promote sustainability and healthy eating even as we do our food choices. I would also want our panelists to address these factors that we are mentioning in the chat box quite elaboratively, and I would also want them to help us understand overconsumption and preference of ultra-processed foods, how that impacts our broader food system and environment. Overconsumption, there's overconsumption, and then also how is food consumption linked to equity, affordability, and food security within our communities. We want to live in a food secure society and in equitable societies. And how do our food choices impact these? We can quickly run through this because most of our audience are already commentating on the chat box. So Mr. Vuyala, kindly take it down, and Ashitiva, you can marinate it in 2 minutes.
Thank you, Rick. We are looking at what influences food choices. Let me start with that. Food choices probably are shaped. You already preempted, but I can just go through quickly that it is basically shaped, determined by biological, or is it psychological? We have economic, cultural, environmental, and social factors. And these factors interact to determine what we eat, how we eat, and when we eat, where we eat, and so on. Maybe just quickly and in brief, let me just look at biological factors where they relate basically and generally to our body's physical needs. And everyone has his or her own physical body's physical needs that affect his choices. One, we have the hunger and satiety, where we are looking at when when hungry, we choose foods that provide quick energy, and that is normal. And also, it affects the portion size and the preference for the nutrient dense foods. We have also the nutrient requirements of a given nutrient requirements, which depends on the given age of a person, the gender of a person, the health status, whether sometimes there's pregnancy or the physical activity levels. And then the preferences, the taste preferences also affect choices. We are looking at, is it sweet? Of course, we love sweet things, cake, is it salty? Is it bitter, sour, and so on. Then we are looking at the genetic differences, which influences taste sensitivity. Also, allergies. So many people have allergies. The same. We're looking at the allergy maybe to gluten, lactose, and so on. This shapes our food acceptability. So we're looking at the physical factors also, where our feelings, our emotions, our attitudes, our experiences affect our choices very much to a large extent. That is, we're looking at emotions, the comfort of foods during stress or sadness. We're engaging, we're saying maybe when you're stressed, you tend to eat so much, or when you're sad. So and then the celebratory foods during special occasions. We are looking also that's the emotions of the day. We also have the mental health, where when you're depressed, there is low depression now is different from stress. When you are in low depression, actually there's low appetite, or you crave so much for certain foods. Then there's when you are anxious, sometimes you skip meals and so on. The food memories also affect the perception of a healthy eating also, because personal beliefs like these foods is natural, organic, and all this, there are people who believe in processed food. We have also the social cultural factors, like cultural traditions, the religion aspect, the family practices, what you're used to, the home cooking methods, the parents who etc. And then you have the social norms also under the social cultural also affects our choices. And then economic factors, they determine what people can afford, of course, the weight of your pocket, the income levels, that is, the higher the income, the more variety and more proteins you get. But the lower the income, also, you now demote yourself to cereals, tubers, cheaper energy dense food, and so on. We also have the food prices. Also, when you forego price of meat for vegetables that is readily you can afford. There is also the fruits, milk, they affect our choices. Availability of the markets, and then we have urban markets, supermarkets, and fast food. Actually, and then we have the rural open air markets, which has limited diversity. And then we have time and convenience. Environmental and physical factors are the food environment, because when you are in rural areas, it's fresh produce, urban areas, processed food. So those are the choices you have to make fast foods. Then the infrastructure, like kitchen facilities, transport facilities, the refrigeration facilities. This is now for perishables. So this influence food storage and meal preparation. Then we also have seasonal climate and seasonality, because it's seasonal availability of fruits and vegetables and fish also affects our choices, because we may now have no fruits this season they are limited, then the prices are high, so you cannot afford. How packaging is done, how marketing is done for a given product also influence our choices, how it is placed on the shelf, how attracting the packages, the health claims, is it low fat, is it organic, and so on. Then the social influence and the media also advertising, the TV, radio, YouTube, TikTok influence and a lot of things, because you may find people may be attracted to how it is advertised in that social media, it is influencing. Or the peer influence also, where friends eating habits, I may tend to now like to eat what my CEO eats because maybe that is the food for the CEOs. So I may not be, I may hate it myself. Then you have the social media trends, the viral recipes, the celebrity diets, where you tend to copy the influence endorsements and so on. So the health also affects and knowledge factors. And if you decision on knowledge, the health conditions that you have, or the professional high advices you're getting from the dietitians, the doctors, the public health campaigns, and so on. We have also the aspect of ethical and environmental values, where sustain is choosing local, organic, and climate friendly over the processed. And then we have the animal welfare concern, vegetarians or vegan diets. Then we have climate change awareness, reduced meat consumption, zero waste eating habits, and so on. So all in all, food choices are influenced by these factors, and the knowledge and sustainability, these factors interact to shape what food individuals prefer, access, and consume. However, looking at food choices, the impact on this, its impact on, I've already touched on that, on how food availability influences food choices, whether food exists in a market or in an environment. When foods are available, people consume more. When foods are scarce, they consume less. And then we have also the diet diversity increases. When you have more money, you can diversify, but when you have less, you go for what is available and what can make the family satisfied. And then when availability is limited, people rely on cheap processed foods. Seasonal shortages lead to poor nutrition. Then we have also remote areas may also not access fresh produce. And as we go on, we are looking at how affordable is it. But I'll leave it at that, and I invite John to give in a snippet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vuyala. John, I don't know if you can do it in half a minute because we are now winding up.
Thanks, Rick. Thank you. Has put it very well. I don't want to add more because of time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we are progressing well. Allow me to just sample feedback that we are receiving. John Ashitiva says his food diet is largely influenced by nutritional value and availability. Celine says nutritional value and affordability. Caroline Okoth from Kisumu, my food choices depend on nutrition and accessibility. Availability and age, that is Helix Odhiambo. We have Rofi Baraza who says it is budget, stroke affordability, and then availability and accessibility. And then Austin Otieno says option C, which is availability and accessibility. We are seeing budget from Eric Kashara and Kuloba Miriam, availability and nutritional value. Linda Sabwa, nutritional value and availability. John Wandera, availability. And Helen is largely influenced by availability. I'm wondering that most of us are not really influenced by social and society and culture around food. Maybe that is maybe it's a third or fourth influence or factor, but we will get to know that. Maybe at some point in the remaining few minutes, we will give one of us a microphone who I don't know if we can be able to unmute to just respond on how all this intertwined: availability, accessibility, environment, and also nutritional value, and how it's all connected to what our farmers are doing on the ground and how we are balancing in between. Because as consumers of food, we must also relate with the producers of food. And in most cases, for those of us who live within agricultural productive areas, we produce while we consume at the same time. We live amongst consumers and we live amongst producers of food all at the same time. So allow us to proceed with the final part of this session. And I will again invite our panelists to just give us brief remarks on waste management, because at the end of the day, we have a lot of waste that is coming out of the food system. And probably we are just sitting on another gold mine in the name of waste. So what type of food waste are generated at production, processing, and distribution and consumption stages? And then how does inefficient waste management affect the environment? So these are the questions we want to answer. And what strategies have the project, that is SUSTFARM, put in place to reduce environmental impact? And then how can community engagement and producer responsibilities strengthen waste reduction practices? And how we can integrate thinking, transform sustainable food solutions on these processes. I want to give this opportunity to John Ashitiva to just summarize for us the whole concept around waste management and the climate and reduction of waste management, or maximization of the circular economy, to just make sure that we make the best out of our waste. So Mr. Ashitiva, you're welcome. And this will be the final topic of engagement. So I beg that we hold on because we are finishing. Thank you. Ashitiva, karibu.
Thank you so much, Rich. You know that at every node, we have our wastes that are produced, be it at farm level. We have the maize stovers, the crop crop waste, animal waste. We have the kitchen waste at processing level. We have the packaging materials and all that. So what we do as at food system, it creates some negative impact, which leads to soil degradation, contamination. It leads to soil and water pollution. This will lead to various negative effects on the issue of biodiversity, because when you have a lot of plastics and maybe in waterborne in water bodies, it leads to deaths and also loss of some important animals. Leads to also the issue of the food safety and public health risks, the issue of various outbreaks of this outbreak, be it cholera and the others, also to contribute to climate change. Because if not well taken care of, leads to climate change. Then also the social economical feedback, which leads to actually a negative impact. So what I'm doing is for us we have tried to put in places we have put in strategies to be able to deal with this waste, just as we have discussed from the beginning at farm level, and talking of the issue of composting, the kind of issue of the composting, BSF, just to enhance the circular economy, the issue of recycle and reuse various plastics or containers that are produced as bit at processing level, bit at distribution level. The issue of the biogas production, solar water pump installation and usage, the issue of energy saving GCOs, just to reduce the issue of deforestation also. And then also the biogas, of course, it will reduce the green gas emission. Then all in all, we also train the beneficiaries on the issue of waste management. How do they collect? How do they separate the organic waste, the inorganic waste? How do they dispose of? How do they convert to organic manure? How do they burn those ones that are not organic, the inorganic ones? So we do a lot of trainings, also training on the issue of the food safety. They've even reducing the waste at farm level, reducing the food at farm level. So that's what we are really looking at, because you can produce well, you can do everything process, but now the issue of the waste can actually fail the food system. So what we are doing is to make sure that everything works in cohesion with with others, to scale the production up to waste management. And then finally, after that, we advance the issue of the circular economy, the issue of our environment. So that's what we are really doing to enhance the issue of sustainability. Because if we be able to dispose of or rather convert the waste in an effective way, then it leads to sustainability of the food system. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that elaborate discussion on waste management. So we have come to the end of our conversation today. I just want us to unmute our microphones and share our take homes today. For those of us who might not be able to get the chance on the microphone, you can just chat. So I can see on my screen, Albina. Albina, you can tell us what are you taking home. Also, is it Ochanyo? You can prepare to tell us what you are taking home from today's conversation. John Wandera, I can see you on my screen. You can tell us what you are taking home today. The rest of us, we can chat. What are we taking home? You can just highlight 1 point or 2 points. And should there be a little more time, you can raise your hand. We can also select you. Albina, are you ready to tell us what you're taking home? Okay, as she looks for her microphone, and as Ochanyo prepares, as Elijah Barasa also prepares to unmute, and John Wandera, I will read a take home by Gideon. He says, things don't go wrong, things start wrong. And therefore, from that lesson, we must get it right. It's a whole ecosystem. You don't fix production only, you fix the entire system, but you must begin with production. Any other take homes? We have discussed quite a lot, from food choices to waste management, to moving our food from source to destination, to environmental conservation, to nutritional value, governance, sustainability, implementing governance and irrigation, and climate-friendly actions, and even collaborative efforts with partners like ADS, the German Corporation, KENAF, WHH. So what are our take-homes, Albina? That is, okay, I'm told the microphones are still on mute. The microphones are now open. You can go ahead and unmute.
Thank you so much, Rick. Thank you, panelists. I have actually learned a lot. Just looking at it, my key take home is that we should not look at it, the entire food system, we should not look at it individually or separately. When we look at it as an entire system, then we are able to just make sure there's a lot of sustainability in between and a lot of making sure that what we are doing then adds up. I think for me, I've picked quite a number. I got so interested in one, the creation of the water pans. I think I have seen it in some place in Ukambani, but I had never thought it can work in many other places. So quite an informative session. And I have my take home and something that I can practically implement for my own use and also for my parents back in the village, something that we can easily begin to do even as we look at ways of even making it better as we continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We also see any other person who is ready to do this, to give us their take home. And Albina, in case you want to consult on implementing your water pan, the contacts are there. They have been shared in the chat area. And I believe they can be reshared, the contacts, just for follow-ups. We have Barasa, Elijah, and who else? And Austin Otieno. I can see you on my screen. You want to share your take homes? Great. I can see time is really spent. Maybe if you can save time and just say your take homes, those ones who can be able to unmute. I'm not sure whether the microphones can be unmuted. That's why I have to keep on referring. George Vuyala writes and says, small changes at one stage can ripple across the system, raising farmer revenue, lowering prices, and cutting waste. Thank you so much, Mr. Vuyala. Now we are going to, this session has been recorded. We will share it for those of you who may need to do a follow-up. Kindly send a message again to the number that has been provided. We will be able to share the recorded version of this session because we may want to make reference to this conversation even as we implement the discussion in our day-to-day food systems. Thank you so much, everybody. I want to welcome Mr. Shitiva to give us the closing remarks and then pray for the meeting to have a close. Mr. Shitiva, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Rick. Just to thank all of us for getting time, joining this webinar. This is just the first one. I know we have so many that we'll be discussing on various components of food system, most likely every Tuesday. So we'll be sharing this. Then let us also take care of our environment, take care of our food system for our sustainability. Thank you. Let's pray. Almighty Father, I come unto you this great evening with thanksgiving, oh Father. Thank you for the session that we have had to discuss on the issue. As a nation, we do pray that Almighty Father may guide us, Almighty Father, as we move towards the food nutrition security and sustainability, oh God, so that we can be able to serve each and everyone, Almighty Father. Thank you, Father, for the show that you have had. We pray that, Almighty Father, for the upcoming sessions, oh God, you will guide us, oh Father, and let us, Almighty God, create a positive impact within ourselves as also in our communities. We do pray this believing and trusting in Jesus' name. Amen.